individual participating in this event contributes to a powerful collective message of peace. Thank you all again. As we continue this wave, let's reflect on the incredible diversity and creativity we've witnessed so far from our amazing speakers, and also insightful contributions that we've been circling around the globe with our amazing speakers. I need you to know that every action and every individual participating in this event is really making or empowering the peace work that we're doing across the globe. And I encourage each and every one of you to engage and actively ask questions during the Q&A sessions. And you can also think how you can contribute to the peace movement in your own way. In the chat box, you may also find the link for donation to support our work in promoting and empowering the peace. Thank you for being part of this global effort, and let's keep the wave of peace rolling. And now let's dive into the remarkable stories and actions into part 11. And for that, I'm giving the floor to Rachael from ALLMEP. Rachael will be leading us in this journey in part 11. So Rachael, please, floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Ahmed. It's really good to be here with everyone. Welcome to this next part of this year's Peace Wave. So as Ahmed said, my name is Rachael Liss. I work for the Alliance for Middle East Peace, or ALLMEP. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what we do in a minute, but I just wanted to start by acknowledging the horrific situation that people in the region are going through. So this part, I don't know if it's been said, is really going to focus on Israel-Palestine. And with the ongoing violence on and since October 7th, we internationally really have to do everything we can to stop the violence, to make sure no more innocent civilian Palestinians in Gaza are killed, to release the Israeli hostages, to absolutely flood the Gaza Strip with humanitarian aid, and then work to make sure a war like this never happens again. And so today we're going to hear from people who are working on exactly that. So the Alliance for Middle East Peace is a network of over 160 Israeli and Palestinian civil society peacebuilding organizations. These NGOs work in all sectors of society, so in tech, in education, in health, in the environment, you name it. But the underlying principle of each of them is to bring Israelis and Palestinians and/or Jews and Arabs together in some way to build a future based on coexistence and cooperation, and on true equality and security and peace for all. Now, the peacebuilding field has been, in particular, severely impacted by October 7th and the ongoing war, with most of our members having lost loved ones, colleagues, their homes, their livelihoods. But it's an extremely resilient community. There are still hundreds of organizations that are operating and continuing to hold and build the peace between Israelis and Palestinians, between Jews and Arabs. So for this part of the peace wave, we really wanted to dedicate this time and center those Palestinians and Israelis who are fighting against violence for a shared future based on true equality, justice, and peace. So we're going to hear from many of our members today and others in the peace building community about their ongoing work and dedication to peace amidst this profound crisis and horrific war. So to start us off, I actually am not sure if Majd and Kamal are on here. If you are, you might want to drop a message in the chat. But if you're not, Ahmad, I think, can we go to the video with Magen, Maoz, and Aziz, which is actually the second video. So just to quickly say, Magen, Maoz, and Aziz are three peace entrepreneurs who have had to pay the highest price for this conflict, all having lost close family members. And they have now dedicated their lives to seeking peace and making sure that no other Palestinian or Israeli has to endure what they have. So this is a message from the three of them.
Magen and I lost both our parents and many of our childhood friends on October the 7th. And since then, we've been on a journey. We've been on a journey walking on the path to peace and following the star of peace. And it was just 3 days after we lost our parents that Magen asked all the siblings to send a universal message from our own personal tragedy, that we are seeking no revenge. And of course, we accepted it. And this is what we've been saying ever since. And on our journey, we've been dialoguing, meeting, interacting, and building friendship and partnership with many Palestinians, Palestinian in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Israel, and in the diaspora. And Aziz is one of them that we've been partnering now for 8 months on a daily basis, day and night basis. And together we are creating hope. We are creating hope. And we came with a formula, very basic, even though it might be difficult to execute, how to create hope. We are creating hope together by envisioning a better future between the river and the sea, and by acting to make this vision into reality. And this is what we are doing now, and we are doing it with more energy, with more power, with more partners, with every passing day.
Maz didn't mention, but he and Aziz, part of that process, met the Pope, and I think we discovered that we are working both bottom up to create the political will. I'll speak as an Israeli, like within the Israeli community, and also top down. So we've been able to meet quite high-ranking politicians and leaders, much of it through the help of ALLMEP, and really create the political will from the bottom up, and also getting leaders to do the right thing top down. And I think especially at a time where the leadership in both Israel and Palestine is irrelevant in many ways, then for people like the common people, for civil society organizations, there's a real role to play. I'll say that personally, I live in London, so very much attached to Israel. All my siblings are there, and we would go and visit quite a lot, but I live in London for the last 10 years. And so like some other Israelis and Palestinians who are not in the region, it actually in some ways makes it easier to be more vocal about what is going on, and try and harness the communities here to support Israelis and Palestinians in a way that imagines a better future for both people, and gets us towards that future step by step. And we have to think, what do we need to do now so that in 5 and 10 years time we're in a better place. And I think that's, to use Moses' words, this is the way we're creating hope, whether it's here in London or in Israel-Palestine.
I'm part of this group of creating hope and creating a change of language around peace and around empathy. My brother was killed in the first Intifada, and so I have gone through the whole cycle of anger, revenge, hate, and finding my way through peace. And in the last few months, been working with Maoz, with Magen, and other partners on really making sure our voices are heard locally and are heard internationally, making sure we are not ignored anymore, especially by international leaders who would like to talk about peace, but without ever talking to the people who are making that peace potentially happen, become a reality, who are creating an alternative to what's going on in the region. I think in some ways, even our existence, not just our work, our existence in itself is the biggest threat to people who want war, people who want death, people who want violence. And the fact that we exist, we create a reality that says there is an alternative, there is a different path forward. And we modeling that path ourselves by being friends, by standing together. Magen mentioned going and meeting with Pope Francis, where thousands of people were there, and many of them had Israeli flags or Palestinian flags. And as we stood together, you could see those same people suddenly realizing you don't have to be only on Israeli or Palestinian side, that we can be fighting for justice, for equality, for dignity, for peace on the same side. And so what we've been doing is making that a reality, whether through, Maoz and I are gonna probably do a mission together leading a trip in September, whether it's through creating content and building an education dual narrative center, or whether it's through just meeting those politicians and leaders that Magen talking about, being in the media. We have to work a lot harder to make sure that we are the ones representing our people, and it's not the extreme voices who often are very loud.
Yeah, exactly. We are doing so much, so it's really going to be difficult in 10 minutes, but we have a plan. We have a plan how to achieve peace between the river and the sea by the year 2030. It's not going to be in our lifetime. It's not going to be in our generation. It's going to happen soon. Because, and we are all, the three of us are privileged to say, because October 7th is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to channel our trauma, our suffering, our agony and pain to dialogue, to partner, to create a better future. So we are going to use it. We are not going to let it go. We are not going to let others kill or revenge in our name. Exactly the opposite. We're going to make peace in our name. And the way we're going to do it is first, but we have a values. We have decided the values of our shared future: equality and dignity, security and safety, shared acknowledgement and recognition, reconciliation and healing. So we already agreed on the values of the future. And now we are building a coalition. And ALLMEP, if ALLMEP wasn't already exist, someone had to invent it. Because ALLMEP is ALLMEP is the coalition. ALLMEP is the coalition of the future and of peace. And we need to strengthen this coalition. We need to invest in the coalition. We need to bring more players, individual and organization, to this coalition. And we have a roadmap. We have a roadmap, and we are now executing how to achieve peace. And the first 2 chapters in the roadmap is to amplify our voices, which is exactly what we are doing as we speak now, and to build legitimacy. Legitimacy to peace and legitimacy to us as the leaders of the future. Like Magen said, we are lack of leadership, and we were hijacked by the extremists. So we're going to be those leaders. And we've been meeting so many people, and many ask us, is peace possible? Is peace possible? This is usually the question we've been asked, mostly from Europeans, from Japanese, from Americans. And we keep telling them, you're the answer. Of course, peace is possible, because 80 years ago, there was war waging in Europe. And just last week, 20-something European nations voted to the same parliament. They're using the same currency, the same flag, and there are no checkpoints or no borders. So of course, peace is possible. And we need to envision this future. And we need, like the EU has done, to make the enemies of the past into the partners of the future. And what I realized lately is the war is still waging. And suffering and agony is just still going on. The only war which has been won is war which leads to peace. And both Palestinian and Israelis, we've been losing now for a century. We've been losing, and it's a time for both of us to win. It's time for both of us to win peace. We deserve peace. We deserve peace, and we are going to make it.
Thanks so much. That was Maoz, Magen, and Aziz. And now I want to turn to Majd al-Mashharawi, who is an entrepreneur from Gaza. Now, Majd, I think, is not joined here by her brother, Kamal, but they are both entrepreneurs. And together they have pioneered a groundbreaking solar company called Sunbox, which is providing Gazans with the means to power small appliances during daily blackouts. Since the war, they have actually lost their business and their livelihoods, and a number of family members. Kamal was able to make it to the US and reunite with Majd, who I think is now based in the UAE, but she'll tell us some more. But despite everything they've lived through, they continue to believe and work towards a more peaceful future, and especially to rebuilding their country. So, Majd, I'm going to try and unmute you if I can. Here we go. And take it away.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Nice to meet you, Rachael. Nice to meet you, everyone. Hi, my name is Majd, and I'm a Palestinian who was born and grew up in Gaza. And for me, talking about my personal experience going through this war, I was the only one of my family who was lucky enough to be outside. I moved outside of Gaza around 4 years ago, Rachael. And the reason why I moved is I started giving up on the situation because of the leadership we have on both sides. And I felt it's very complicated for me to keep working and creating the change on the ground while I am inside Gaza. And I have to step back and just start doing the change from outside instead of spending almost 7 years trying to change things while I was inside. So my life was not easy since the moment when I decided to do something towards this situation. My life started to become harder and harder and harder, and I had so many complications. I was under interrogation for so many times from both sides. So my dad said, now it's time to leave. So in 2020, I left Gaza and I started building a base outside of Gaza and trying to help as much as possible people and friends and family to change their lives. And it was true. I was able to create bigger change when I was outside than I was inside, because most of my energy was consumed trying to make things happen on the ground, and it was not working. And that's one of the main things that we should also focus on, that the people who are trying to change the situation were going through a hard time because of the leadership we have, or we had. And that's what drove me to stay outside and to step back.
Majd, I don't know, is it just my internet or is it everyone?
No, I think we've lost the
on the ground.
connection. Okay, she's back. Maybe she's back.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, we lost you, but you're back now, Majd.
Okay, I was saying when October 7th happened, I wasn't even in my house. I was in a business trip and I thought an earthquake happened. And the news, I was like, this is the beginning of the the end. This is the beginning of creating something big, and it's gonna be beyond our ability to control what's happening. And things started to to scale up rapidly, and all my parents and my siblings were in Gaza. And I called my father and I said, Dad, take your luggage now and leave through the border. It was open. And I was like, no, it's going to take a few weeks. It will end. And I said, Dad, this is going to destroy Gaza. What happened is going to drive them crazy. And I don't know if I can save you in the future. You have to leave now. And no one believed me. And that's exactly what happened. A few days later, the border was closed. My family was forced to move to the south, and then they didn't find a place in the south, and then they went back to the north, and then they were stuck in a basement for 2 weeks with no food and no water, and our neighborhood was completely occupied, and it was like most of the houses were like completely destroyed, and I wasn't able to reach out to them or contact them for 2 weeks. So the only way was for me to check up on my family is to buy online maps every day to check if the house is still standing or not, because they had like rumors. It was like my family was killed. I was watching Al Jazeera and there was like, Mashharawi family was trying to escape, and they were targeted and they were killed. And I lived the worst days of my life. And for someone who was trying to do so many things for Gaza and for the current situation, I didn't deserve to go through this. And I was Rachael pregnant in my first semester, and I had like so many health complications. I had to stay in the hospital. I had very low oxygen level in my blood because of what's happening. And I kept trying. I remember I was talking to John. I was talking to everyone I know in my life, trying to help my family get out of Gaza. And it was the priority always for the people who has dual citizenship. And of course, I know as a Palestinian, I have no one who could help me unless I'm recognized as like an American or European or whatever. So this also made more anger inside me, because in the time when I needed help, I didn't it wasn't fair for me. Like, I didn't get it. So everyone tried to help, to get the family out. It was 9 family members. It's not a small number. And luckily, after 2 months, exactly 2 months of the war, and when my parents almost lost everything, the house was partially destroyed. Now it's completely burned, the cars, the money, everything. And when we were trying to evacuate them from the north to the south, they were targeted by the IDF, although I coordinated for them through the United Nations, and they were holding the UN flags. They were shot, and my brother was injured, and it was just a scary nightmare for me. And then they arrived to the south, and they had no place to stay in the south. They had very limited food, and my father was seriously sick, and we didn't know what's going on with him. He wasn't eating, he wasn't going to the bathroom or nothing. So after 2 months, I gave up on getting them out. I remember talking to John, and I said, John, I think I did all what I can. And I was ready to pay money. So people asked me also to pay money, like $8,000 per person. Before, and I was going to Egypt just to do it. I just want to save them by all means. And I just, that night I gave up. I went back to sleep, and I woke up in the morning, like 3 a.m. in the morning, and so many people calling me, telling me that my family name was on the evacuation lists. And for me, that moment is just magical, Rachel, because, oh my goodness, the people who I care the most for is my family now, and they will be safe. And I remember I tried to reach out to them for hours, and I couldn't, because there was no network. And this is like, this war proved that, like, really, it's there is no humanity. So when a war happens, the most people who suffered are the innocents, the people who didn't pay anything, who didn't do anything. And it's not just about fighting, but not getting food and humanitarian and for people, to cut the network in Gaza, to cut the water. It's all like, I felt it just went beyond what any human being could imagine. Crossing through the humanitarian passage, taking people, like one of the people who was taken is like my cousin, was like my, and my father's nephew, and he had kids, and until now we don't know anything about him. And I was so worried that they would take Kamal or Jamal, my brothers. And if this happens, I don't know what I'm gonna do, because although we coordinated through the UN for my cousins and my family to cross the humanitarian passage, it meant nothing. So everything is like, no human rights, no international laws. Our house is a UN building, and it doesn't matter, nothing matters in this war, just destruction and killing, and it's crazy, and it's evil. I don't even call it crazy, it's evil. So anyways, on that day, my family left Gaza, and you can't imagine, I couldn't believe it. So I just flew immediately to Egypt. I took them from the border. They had nothing. My brothers didn't have shoes. They had no clothes, nothing. Just, my mom was wearing she looked like someone who was lost in the desert. She was full of dust. My sisters looked so skinny, so tired. I couldn't believe when I saw my father. I cried so much, because like, a person who I used to see very healthy, very strong man, looked like 100 years old man. He looked so tired. He looked so exhausted. I took them, to an apartment in Egypt now, and I said, this is the start of a refugee life. we don't know what's going to happen next. No country is accepting us. And this is the second, challenge of our life as Palestinians, Rachael, which is, it's not just we were occupied and blocked inside Gaza. We have no place to go in the world. No country is welcoming us. So that when the war started, all the Arab countries blocked visas on us, and including Egypt. So they give them 72 hours in Egypt. And once it's done, you will be staying illegally. And illegally means you can't, receive money, you can't rent a house, you can't apply for another visa, let's say to Europe or to the US, because, you are illegally staying in Egypt. And the second stage of my suffering started, which is how to get my family to Saudi Arabia, where I live, as a second, step legally, and they can stay there with me in my house. And then we can look for how to move them to the US, because I'm a green card holder also. So, and I started talking to all my friends, everyone I know. I remember sending hundreds of messages. I was spending all my time on the phone, all my time. I did nothing in my life. I stopped my work. I stopped everything. I just helped them to start building their future, because I knew there might be no return back to Gaza, and they were lost. And I want them a place around me, around people who I know who could support them emotionally, especially my sisters and my nieces who are 2 and 4 years old. I worked with with the Saudi ambassador in Cairo, and they gave them very exceptional visas, and we were very lucky. So in 2 weeks or in a week and a half, I got them all to Saudi Arabia. And then we started working on their humanitarian parole to get them to the US. So we got my parents, where my dad is now having medical treatment, and he's progressing and he's getting much better, as well as my mother. And Kamal is also in the US. I went with them, and now we are trying. My sister, who's she was one of the best students in Gaza. She was not admitted to any school in Saudi. We tried hard. We talked to the Ministry of Education. They said we cannot admit her. So a few weeks ago, she was admitted to one of the best schools in the US. She's flying tonight to the US to reunite with my parents. And now we are working with my brother, who also was a college student, to go there and also continue his education. So we are doing it step by step, but I just said it in a few minutes, Rachel, but it took me 270 days, to make this happen. And it was very, very hard. It wasn't an easy journey. And again, I continued working towards, helping people in Gaza. So I was able to distribute thousands of food packages. Now Kamal and I are working on long-term projects for solar, to bring solar kits into Gaza through with the help of USAID and other international and local organizations. We also help, building tents. We help relocating people, evacuating people from the north and south, getting people out, raising funds also to pay for the Egyptians to get some of our other family members out. And on the top of that, we are trying to help also relocating my family in the US by finding a place to stay, something to start, and as well as the Saudi. So it's a lot of things to manage.
Majd, thank you so much for just being here. We're so privileged to have you here and to share your story. And we're praying and doing everything we can to stop all of this just horrific violence. And just thank you so much. And we'll be in touch. I don't know if you've frozen again, but Majd, thank you. And I really encourage everyone to Google Majd and the work that she's doing with Kamal. You'll find them online very easily. So Majd, thank you so much.
With a pleasure. Thank you, Rachel, for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to hear from one of our members, Dr. Yeela Raanan, who is the CEO of the Regional Council of Unrecognized Bedouin Villages. She's been actively involved in advocating for the rights of residents in unrecognized villages for 25 years now. So Ahmed, if you are able to play that video, that would be great. Ahmed, I'm not sure if it's playing.
minority who are citizens of Israel. My name's Yeela, Dr. Yeela Raanan. I am the general manager of an organization called the Regional Council for the Unrecognized Bedouin Villages in the Negev and the Nakab. In Israel, the Palestinian minority has a minority of about the Palestinian minority who are citizens of Israel are about 2 million people. Within this minority, again, citizens of Israel, we have about 360,000 who are Bedouins that live in the southern part of Israel. In Hebrew, we say Negev, and in Arabic, it's called Nakab. Of this 360,000, Israel has still left half of this community, so about 180,000 people without building permits, living in villages that have not yet been recognized, or if they have been recognized, they have not yet been planned, meaning that nobody can go and request a building permit because you need it to be established on a plan, an urban plan, still ongoing. So we have 180,000 people who are extremely vulnerable to the whims of any person that works in the government dealing with the Bedouin, this Bedouin community. There's a whole authority called the Authority for the Settlement of the Bedouin, whose job it is to settle, and in fact, they see their job as uprooting and concentrating. So nobody in these homes is free from the threat of home demolitions. We have 180,000 citizens of Israel in the south living in tin homes, in shacks, with the threat of home demolitions every day. 1997, the leaders of the Bedouin communities, these Bedouin villages, said it's enough of the government all the time moving us around, telling us what to do, and us not having a voice. And they say they don't know what we want. We don't know what we want. So they created an organization called the Regional Council for the Unrecognized Bedouin Villages. There are in Israel regional councils. I live myself in a regional council of small communities. Of course, in my case, it's Jewish communities. And so the leadership of the Bedouins of the villages emulated a regional council. They divided out their map into villages, 46 such villages. Each village has a committee. Each committee sends its representative, and once in 4 years we have elections among the 46 representatives. And so now we have an organization, this is since 1997, which works for the rights of these villagers. So what do we usually do? First of all, we've managed to get 14 villages recognized. Although they are recognized, they're not yet planned, but it just means that we've taken the process one step further in the good direction. We also fight for those schools and preschools and daycares and medical clinics and anything that comes up that everybody needs and the government does not supply. So we use the Supreme Court. We use everything we can. We talk to the bureaucrats. For example, water. We actually manage, but through talking to high-level bureaucrats in the water system, the Water Authority of Israel, to change from having a trickle to your house and having to pay about 10 shekels for a meter squared of water. Now they pay 3, which is 1/3, and you have more waters. That's thanks to a lot of work with the high-ranking officials. On October 7th, the rockets were thrown from Gaza towards Israel, trying to hit also military places. And one of the military places is an Air Force base that was put right in the middle, in the heart of the Bedouin community, among the villages. And so as the rockets were flying to try and hit this Air Force base, they actually killed Bedouins in their homes. The reason that a Bedouin in his home in the unrecognized villages had a 20,000 times higher chance to be killed by rockets coming from Gaza than anybody else in our country. And the reason is when you live in shacks and when your house doesn't have any building permit, you can't also put a shelter. In Israel, everybody builds shelters, has to build a shelter with their homes, and people who are hiding inside their shelters were saved from rockets that fell on their homes. But if you live in an unrecognized village, you have no protection whatsoever. Not even that. The tin houses are more dangerous than just being out there in the field. So people fled their homes and just lay down on the ground and covered their heads. But still, we had several people of the Bedouin community in the unrecognized villages killed by these rockets. By the way, it came back once more, this extreme fear, when Iran sent, one night we had lots of Iran rockets coming over, and everybody was terrified. The villagers were terrified, knowing they have no protection. They left their homes and they huddled under bridges that are over our roads so that they would be protected from the rockets. And the one person to be very badly injured is a young girl from an unrecognized Bedouin village. She is going to live. They took care of her, but it's going to be a very long recovery. And by the way, her father received a demolition order while he's taking care of his daughter in the hospital. Another thing, of course, is when you have a very, very poor community and the war starts, then these communities are most vulnerable also to hunger. So yes, also inside Israel, not as bad as in Gaza, but also inside Israel, we have communities that are always in fear of hunger. And the RCUV was the one that we know where people live. We know how to get to them. So it was our job, and we did it to make sure that all these most vulnerable families, mostly single moms or elderly people, will get food supplies for the first couple of months of that war. Was it about a month ago now? Ben Gvir ordered the demolition of an entire village. Now, this village, Israel decided to plan our highway Route 6 over the village. And so the people of the village were required, move away, move to a place that we want you to move to. And they agreed. But still, the entire village has home demolitions. The Route 6 is not happening now. It's going to happen in about 3 years. The neighborhood that they agreed to move to is not happening now. It'll happen in a couple of years. But there is home demolitions. And so Ben Gvir, because he could, just destroyed the entire village. Not only did he bring police and bulldozers and erased the village, they came back, they are coming back every other day to destroy the small tents that the people put up, because they have to sleep somewhere. They've got nowhere to go. We're doing what we can. So we're trying, we are supplying, we're getting money to supply these people with tents, with electric panels, like the sun electric panels. I want to tell you a very beautiful story. So we are visiting. We actually, part of our work is also to bring knowledge to the international community. So we had the Dutch ambassador in Israel. She came with us. We took her to Wadi Khalil. And Jabir from the village, he says, Yeela, come, I want to show you something. And he brings me to this old, broken van that has houses demolished on top of it. And he opens the door of this van, and inside it's cool. The air conditioning was working. And two of his daughters in their late teens, early 20s, are studying in a Zoom lesson as part of their studies at the university. And, when you wrote at the bottom of what you would like us to talk about, resilience, my God, that's resilience. Under home demolitions in a broken down van, studying Zoom. So we're doing everything we can. We're trying to bring this knowledge to the international world. Now, any pressure on our government, I don't know if it'll help, but we have to try everything. We're bringing, of course, the entire Israeli-Palestinian community to be aware of this and to try and help us with it. The American Jewish community, we're trying right now. They're helping us with money to buy these new tents, and then we need more. We need to work harder there, and if you can help us out, I think that the right-winged Jewish community might be able to pressure Netanyahu. I don't know. So we're trying to do everything we can in every way we can. We're building alternative plans with the hope that our government will eventually go away and get a new one that is more reasonable. We're trying to connect the Jewish community, at least the liberal Jewish community, with the Bedouins, so that they are aware and they feel that they're partners in these issues, which are so difficult. I myself, and I lived, or I live, I don't know, it's always hard, in a border community on the border of Gaza. So my community was attacked. Hamas were in my house too. I was in the safe room with my daughter, and I don't know, miracles, and we're alive. My community was taken out of on the 8th of October. We were taken out and put in a hotel in the Dead Sea. Waiting, the government is building for us this neighborhood of temporary homes, and that's not yet ready. So the community is still in the Dead Sea. If you can see behind me, I left the hotel because it was so difficult. It was far away from work. And so we are all on, with a feeling of just moving around. But in the RCUV, in the Regional Council for the Unrecognized Villages, I find a second home. And with me, we work together, Bedouins, Israeli Palestinians and Jews. We always work together. It's a feeling of this is how the country should be. And so we practice it every day. Thank you.
So big thank you to Yeela for sharing her work with us. So now I'm going to pass the mic over to Nivine Sandouka, who is my colleague from ALLMEP. She's our regional director based in East Jerusalem. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you a bit more about our members in the region. And then she'll stay on to answer some of your questions. So if you already have a question, please feel free to add it into the Zoom box already, and Nivine can answer in about 5 minutes. Thanks, Nivine.
Yes. Thank you, Rachel. So I'm talking to you actually today from Cairo, where I decided to join this amazing convention and cut my vacation short just for this special event as well. So if there's any internet issues, please let me know. So my name is Nivine Sandouka, and I'm originally a Palestinian from East Jerusalem. Right now, the regional director for the Alliance for Middle East Peace. And what I can say is how civil society basically at large was affected by the 7th of October and onward. What we have seen, and ALLMEP is made up of 160 members, and what we have seen basically is a shift of response to the 7th of October and then the war on Gaza afterwards as well. Of course, the civil society and the members are not detached themselves from what has been happening. But at the same time, we have seen such a resiliency in their response. So to begin with, it was very emotional, of course, both sides, in disbelief of what is happening, although this is something that as a peace camp, we were warning about for a long time, that managing the conflict is not going to lead us anywhere. On the contrary, it's going to lead us to increased violence. So it was beginning, at shock, but then after maybe 1 month or so, civil society, specifically the peace builders, they stepped up. And we see them talking about the release of the hostages. We see them talking about the humanitarian aid, the end of the war, a ceasefire, a humanitarian corridor that needs to be established as well. But most importantly, of course, the release of the hostages and the ceasefire. We've seen them, even though in the most difficult circumstances and with the inability to bring Palestinians and Israelis together, they're still trying to find ways to bring both Palestinians and Israelis together, to do the dialogue, the narrative debate, to talk about it. Even we did a survey, and in that survey, we found out that almost a third of our members actually, they stepped up their work. And unlike what we were expecting, that work might be, stopped or paused for a while, actually, they stepped up and they continued working, especially with their alum, bringing them together. There's a need, according to them and according to what we are seeing on the ground, for trauma-informed approaches in peace building. So how do we also do the psychosocial support and peace building together, the trauma healing, because people right now are extremely traumatized on both sides. And of course, the Palestinian side, we cannot even talk about the post-trauma because we're still living in the trauma. And we also saw a need for advocacy. And specific advocacy messaging is basically to make sure that civil society is presented in any multilateral peace building negotiations, but also at the same time that there is a need to stop managing the conflict and rather find a solution for it. And the civil society, especially the peace building, they realize that this is our role right now. I can say, why is it important to have peace building also involved in this? One, because we know exactly what it means to bring Israelis and Palestinians together. We know what are the issues they would like to focus on, what are the things they want to be basically put on the table. How do we, talk about the narrative? How do we reconcile these narratives as well? But also a large part of civil society, they have solutions. The Geneva Initiative, the EcoPeace, the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies, all of them actually put and propose solutions, peaceful solutions that both the Palestinian and the Israeli people, as well as the international people, are aware of, and most of them agree with those things. And we need to be presented in those because we know what it means and we know what it takes, and we have the proposition for future solutions. I'll stop there, Rachel, to take any questions if there's any questions.
Thanks so much, Nivine. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to, I don't know, raise your hand or put it in the chat and we can answer. And if not, we can move on. But yeah, Nivine, thank you for adding the bit about advocacy. Something I didn't yet mention is all of our members and other international organizations around the world just this last week managed to get language into the G7 communique stating the need to support and institutionalize G7 leaders' support for civil society peace building in Israel and Palestine. So a really big win, and we're really hoping that G7 leaders are going to continue to work with us to really support peace builders in the region. So thanks, Nivine.
100%.
Yeah,
I can just add to that, Rachel. Maybe it's important to keep people aware. The international community's will to support the Palestinian-Israeli peace building compared to what was happening in Northern Ireland in Belfast. So, for example, over there, the international community invested more than $40 per person per year to bring them together, the both conflicting sides, to build meaningful connections between one another, to humanize one another, so that when there is a political solution, people themselves are going to support this political solution, and they're going to put limits to the spoilers on all sides. For us in our conflict, the international community has invested less than $4 per person, which makes us think a little bit that honestly, we need to be investing a lot more in bringing people together, both the Palestinians and the Israelis, so that we can give them hope, something that right now doesn't exist. The word peace doesn't exist anymore. So we really need to invest. And there's like more than 160 peace building organizations that, as I said, working with the level of the grassroots, who actually want to bring people together to build those meaningful connections. And by the G7 actually putting this or adding this in their communique, it means right now they have a duty to invest in civil society, specifically in peace building civil society.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nivine, so much. And we'll let you get back to your convention and your holiday.
Thank you.
Now, thanks, Nivine. Now, actually, we're going to turn to hearing from Rula Daood. She's the national co-director of Our Members Standing Together. They are a grassroots movement mobilizing Jewish and Palestinian citizens of Israel in pursuit of peace, equality, and social and climate justice. So, Ahmed, sorry, I'm making you over, but
my name is Rula Daood. I am the national co-director of Standing Together, which is a grassroots movement mobilizing Jews and Palestinian citizens of Israel against the occupation, for peace, for equality, and for social justice. Now, Standing Together is a movement that has been working since late 2015, calling out for people to go out into the streets to demonstrate, mobilizing people for issues within the Israeli society, ending of the occupation, peace, equality, social justice, economic justice, environmental justice, because we just simply believe that is all possible. Now, we understand that in the society we live, there is a lack of an alternative voice. The government that we have right now, the Israeli government, is a government that is speaking about conquering Gaza, occupying Gaza, about just throwing 2.2 million Palestinians out of Gaza, and they can just go wherever they want. The reality is, living in here, we need solutions. And especially after the 7th of October, we understand that a solution, a political solution, is more needed. All of us, Palestinians and Jews across Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank, have endured an unprecedented violence, loss, and trauma. And we've been deeply hurt by the loss of life all across the land, both from Hamas attack and also from the harsh and indiscriminate retaliation on Gaza following and after the 7th of October that is still happening until this moment and this day. Our message since the 7th of October is very simple, that there is another way. We've seen our country launch countless wars and military operations only to end up in the same position. Israel's policy of attempting to destroy Hamas military capabilities every few years have always led to the same place where Hamas becomes stronger. We deeply believe that no military operation has ever produced a lasting safety and security, whether for Israelis or for Palestinians. The occupation of the West Bank and the blockage on Gaza must end, not only because it is brutal and oppressive for the Palestinians living there, but also because it does not guarantee any long-term safety for Israelis or for anybody who is living. And we do understand that the only way that the people living here, the Jewish people who are living here, can have their own safety is when Palestinians in Gaza and in the West Bank have their own independence. So since the 7th of October, we have launched many campaigns and many activities. The most recent of them are the Humanitarian Guard. In May, we started going to Tarqumia, which is a checkpoint to try and guard the aid trucks heading to Gaza from extremist settlers that came out to attack these trucks. We've had demonstrations calling for a ceasefire agreement and a hostage deal. Standing Together was able to organize the biggest demonstrations calling for a ceasefire agreement and a hostage deal since the 7th of October. We've been out in public campaigns to try and impact the discourse. We've had solidarity conventions. We had de-escalation and solidarity within people inside of the Israeli society who have been damaged by this war. And we've had support for victims of discrimination and political persecution within the Israeli society. What we believe is very simple. Both people deserve to live in equality, in peace, in liberty, and yes, in independence. And the only way we can do that is when we can build a real political power that can change the society that we are living within and inside. And we believe that that is possible only by grassroots movement that has both Jews and Palestinian citizens inside of Israel. And that is our main work since the 7th of October and even before the 7th of October. And while many people might say we don't see any hope and there's no real hope, we believe in standing together in a very simple sentence that we say all the time, that where there is struggle, there is hope. And we are still struggling, both Jews and Palestinian citizens of Israel. So thank you very much.
Thank you to Rula for telling us about her work at Standing Together. And I've put a link in the chat if anyone wants to hear more about their work, and I'll continue to do that for all of our speakers. I think now we're actually gonna watch a video from Tareq Abu Hamed. He's Abu Hamed, sorry. He is the executive director of the Arava Institute. And as I mentioned a bit earlier, all of these civil society peacebuilding organizations are operating in all sectors of society, in health and education and interfaith work, in women's rights. And Tareq focuses on the environment. So the Arava Institute is an environmental and academic institution in the Middle East that's dedicated to preparing future leaders from Israel, Palestine, Jordan, and around the world to cooperatively solve the regional and global challenges of our time. So we're going to now hear from Tareq.
Hello, my name is Tareq Abu Hamed. I'm the Executive Director of the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies. I'm a Palestinian who lives in Israel. I'm a strong believer on the science and environment as a diplomacy tool to bridge between people. I devoted all my life for using the science to bridge between people, build understanding, and build trust. The Arava Institute for Environmental Studies is an academic and research institution that advances cross-border environmental cooperation in the face of the political conflict. And we do that through three main pillars: the academic program, the research program, and the applied environmental diplomacy program. Our academic program is accredited by Ben Gurion University of the Negev. 1/3 of our students are Arabic speakers, Palestinians from Israel, West Bank, Gaza, 1/3 Jewish Israelis, and 1/3 international students. Since October 7th, we continued our academic program, Palestinians and Israelis studying together on Kibbutz Uktura at the campus of the Arava Institute. And probably we were, and still, the only organization that brings Palestinians and Israelis together. Palestinians and Israelis who are willing to keep this communication channel open. And we managed to finish the fall semester and also the spring semester. And through this academic program, through dialogue, again, we build understanding and we build trust. At the Arava Institute, we have several research centers, all related to climate change, adaptation, and also mitigation. Research centers on renewable energy, transboundary water management, sustainable agriculture, political ecology, climate change, and also the Jordan Israel Center for Environment, Community, and Research. Most of the research that we cover under these centers has the transboundary aspect. That means we deal with research and environmental challenges that are shared between Israel and its neighbors. And the third pillar is the applied environmental diplomacy that focuses actually on regional initiatives. Our main initiative right now is the war, Gaza. And we managed to build a coalition of civil society organizations, non-governmental organizations in Israel and also in Palestine, a project that we call it Jump-Starting Hope in Gaza. Rebuilding Gaza will take years, but people in Gaza need basic needs, and we have to meet these needs through off-grid technologies that produce drinking water, treat wastewater, generate electricity to meet again the immediate needs of the people until Gaza is rebuilt. And we do that with our Palestinian partners in the West Bank and also in Gaza. To do a regional cooperation in the Middle East is extremely challenging endeavor because the conflict in the region. To have and build transboundary project or projects, these projects should be based on understanding and also on trust. Otherwise, we will not have a sustainable partnership with our Palestinian partners. And again, it's really extremely challenging endeavor to do this transboundary work in such a region that's still navigating its way in this space, war and peace. It's hard. Peace is difficult. It's messy. It's fragile. It's hard to find, even harder to hold onto. And why? Because it's about human beings who have been hurt so deeply, both physically and psychologically. And they will have an unimaginably task or difficult task to overcome this trauma. Organizations like the Arava Institute will provide partners in this region a safe space where they can come, do research together, build partnerships, again based on trust and full equal partnerships. We have a track record. The Arava Institute has been doing this work for 27 years. We have projects in the West Bank to help farmers, communities to get high quality drinking water. We provide them with technologies to treat the wastewater, to recycle the wastewater, and use this recycled wastewater for agricultural activities to help people to cope with the climate change, with the scarcity of the water. And also we have a lot of projects in the in the Gaza Strip. This was before October 7th, and we are continuing these projects and building more partnerships in Gaza to provide people again with off-grid technologies that they need to generate drinking water, treat the wastewater, have the electricity, at least to help them meet their immediate basic needs. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. So next, I'm not sure if they're online yet, but there's Hitam and Manuta. Hi. Are you, yes, okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for being with us. So next, I want to highlight a peace-building organization that's using education to empower young people with the Bedouin community to become leaders and change makers. So Desert Stars is building a generation of Bedouin leaders to promote a thriving Bedouin community and a strong Israeli society. They empower mission-driven young people to realize their individual and collective potential as change-making leaders. And to do so, they run leadership and academic programs that engage youth and adults from the tribes across the Negev. And so we're privileged here to have with us Manuta and Hitam, who can tell us a little bit more about what they do at Desert Stars. So thank you guys so much for being here, and take it away.
Thank you, Rachael. Hi, I'm Manucha, and this is Hitam, and we are colleagues. We've been working at Desert Stars, Hitam for 5 years, and me for 3 years. We'll just take the next few minutes to tell you a little bit about our work in general, and then also the Jewish-Bedouin relationships, especially reflected over the war and kind of how we're tackling it. So in general, we do focus all of our educational and leadership programs on the Bedouin community. For those who don't know, the Bedouins are a Muslim Arab minority who are citizens of Israel, Palestinian citizens of Israel. They live primarily in the south. There are also Bedouins in the north, but all of our work is with Bedouins in southern Israel and the Negev. And it's a very tribal society, split over about 7 towns and 25 villages, recognized and unrecognized throughout the region. And it's very kind of split. Yeah. And so all of our programs, one of the biggest things we do is we bring all of them together. And sometimes that involves taking them outside of their home environments and coming together in a more neutral space and getting to know each other, and kind of helping them look further in their identity, not just as their family name or their tribe, but as Bedouins, as Arab citizens, and as Israeli citizens. So we have a lot of educational and leadership processes, including a high school, a gap year program, and these really focus on 3 main kind of emphases, I guess. One is the academic preparation. Only about 9% of Bedouin adults have a college degree. And so we really focus on giving the young people in our programs the tools to go into academia, to get their degree, to have any opportunity they would like educationally and professionally. And that involves working on linguistics, also supplementing the educational system. So that's like kind of one thing. The other is this really, really deep identity exploration, which Hitam will touch on in a minute, but really having a firm understanding and acceptance of who they are and the many, many layers of identity and what that requires in being a minority Muslim population in a Jewish state, and not being afraid to ask the hard questions, and really explore all the layers of that. And it could be that in a group of 25, there are 25 different kind of understandings of their individual identity, and that's great. And then third is just leadership training in many, many different ways about like seeing a problem and realizing that they can take the responsibility towards fixing that problem and really not staying just a passive citizen, but active and being involved and wanting to contribute and help in whatever way they're able to. Khitam, do you want to talk a little bit about our work, like specifically during this time and also Jewish-Arab relations?
Hi, everyone. My name is Khitam. I'm working for Desert Stars for 5 years. I have been lead women empowerment leadership for 4 years. And now I'm doing in Desert Stars, bringing Jewish and Bedouin Arab from the south to get me to each other. Right now, I think that's happened, that we understand and realize that after 7 October and what happened in 7 October, that the Bedouin society in the south have been really affected strongly by the war. There were people have been killed by Hamas, and also people have been taken hostages to Gaza, and still there are 4 of them. And we start to realize that in the south, especially in the Negev, that we have the same story, and we had been affected very in bad way, and we start to understand that we should do something and not like that would be a great opportunity for the Jewish and the Arab in the south to get to know each other more and more, and to get meeting in each other. And that's if one of the belief that if I want to my society get promoted and be in a great situation, as I don't know if you know that 50% of the people of the Bedouin society, the south, they are living in unrecognized villages. That means if you are being unrecognized village, that you don't have the basic service, electricity and education, healthcare, and many things, even in the basic thing. So we thought that would be a great opportunity for the Jewish and the Arab in the south, that they got to know more and more the challenging that the Bedouin society is dealing every day, and they get to know them deeply, and taking the Jewish be our partner to help us and to help to be promote the Bedouin society in the south. That mean I cannot do that by my own self. If I need my neighborhood to help me to get promote like our situation in the south. So we start to do many programs. We start with a common emergency room that starts in I think in the first week of the war, that we start to help a Bedouin people from different family and a Jewish people come from Netivot and Ifukim, that we bringing very so many volunteers. They come from all the country, Jewish and Arab, to help to doing basket food for those families from the Jewish and the Arab in the south. And we thought that would be an amazing opportunity to bringing all the Jewish community to get to know more the Bedouin society, the challenging, and that become that they can come doing many tours, and they will know more and more things about them. And that's because before 7 October have been a lot of media attack against the Bedouin society by stereotype that the Bedouin, they are occupied all the Negev and they are not doing anything, they've broken the laws, and many bad stereotypes. So we want them to come and to know there's a great thing happening here. For example, there is a doctor from the Bedouin society helping with a Jewish doctor together in the hospital, and that's one of the hope that we want the people to get to know it, and to know the good thing that we have in our society, and to doing if the Bedouin society will be in a good, they will not be in good situation, all the Negev will not. So we need to work together to make the Negev a great place for all of us.
And I'll just, to kind of close up, I'll just say that we truly, truly believe in shared society. And we think that more than anything, people need to get to know each other as individuals. That's why our staff is, all of the programs are co-led by Bedouin and Jewish staff members. At the high school, we have Jewish and Bedouin counselors for our high schools. And also all of our participants in our gap year programs, they volunteer both in Jewish and Arab like opportunities and field work. So we want Jews to meet Arabs in every kind of opportunity, like having a Bedouin soccer coach, for example, someone who volunteers as the soccer coach at a Jewish kibbutz, completely opens their mind to a new experience. They're seeing, you know, somebody they wouldn't necessarily meet otherwise, and suddenly they see them in this really positive role model form and things like that. So we really stress different social initiatives working together. Our high schools, you know, we have bicycling, Jewish Arab, acting, Model UN, like all of these activities. Our goal is really to bring people together and encourage conversation, and also to do normal things together.
Thank you both so much for sharing about this. We actually heard a little bit earlier from Dr. Yeela from the Council for the Unrecognized Villages. So I think that was a really also helpful for everyone to understand that, you know, exactly the interactions like amongst the Bedouin communities also. Thank you so much for being here, and speak soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I now want to introduce Stav, who is from Itaak-Maaki, which is Women Lawyers for Social Justice. And Stav also works closely with the Bedouin community, but with women leaders from the Unrecognized Villages, but also other women in Israel and Palestine. So I'll let Stav say more. So take it away.
Thanks so much, Rachael. It's really wonderful to be here with all of you, and also to hear from Khitam, because Desert Stars are also close partners of ours in the Negev. I'm wondering if it's all right for me to share my screen to share the PowerPoint.
I think you should have access. Give it a try.
Yeah, it was working before, but now it's saying that it's disabled. Sorry.
Do you want to try again?
So just coming in, sorry, from the tech angle here, we need to have the host make you a co-host so you'll be able to share your screen. I think maybe there was an issue earlier. Emily, are you with us? Will you be able to do
that? Yes, I'm here. Give me 1 second.
Thanks so much.
Is it working now?
Yes, amazing.
Great.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Can you see it all right now?
Perfect.
Yes, amazing. Well, thanks so much, Rachael, and thank you all for having us. As Rachael mentioned, I'm from Itaak-Maaki, Women Lawyers for Social Justice. Itaak and Maaki both mean with you in feminine tense in Hebrew and in Arabic. And our aim is to bring the voices and the needs of a diverse range of women in Israeli society to decision makers. And of course, that is more vital than ever in times of war. Usually our tools are using legal tools, as our name suggests. So we have a legal aid hotline where we take in over 2,000 cases of women, chiefly supporting them with socioeconomic issues, workers' rights, and so on every year. And then we carry out policy advocacy based on these needs. We also carry out community organizing and training for women to allow them to also represent their own needs and their own solutions to decision makers. We've had to have quite a radical shift in a lot of this methodology during the war, not only because we saw an increased need for our services, but also because we saw increasing rifts in society, which Khitam touched on before, and I believe you would have heard from the Council for Unrecognized Villages. about as well. And we saw this especially in our work in our Center for Bedouin Women's Rights, where we saw, increased discrimination against the Bedouin community and a very hostile environment at the beginning of the war. And in addition to that, many women, especially being marginalized from the job market, losing their jobs and not being eligible or able to access state benefits. And in order to solve this, we partnered with a range of organizations, including Desert Stars, including Have You Seen the Horizon lately, and many other civil society organizations in the field to set up a joint Jewish-Arab emergency relief center in Rahat and then in Abu Tlul. And these were centers where we brought together hundreds of Jewish and Bedouin volunteers from the Negev and surrounding areas, and packed packages of emergency supplies to thousands of families who are some of the hardest hit by the hostilities, so families close to Gaza. We also set up 16 additional emergency relief centers in the unrecognized villages, together with Al-Nishmayat, movement of Bedouin women leaders from the unrecognized villages, and supported, again, the communities who are hardest hit. And I think that adding a gender lens to all of this work allowed us to see needs that often are ignored, even when people do want to support marginalized communities and society. So speaking to the women, allowing, partnering together with women from the unrecognized villages allowed us to see needs such as, the lack of blankets that they didn't have in the unrecognized villages, and they needed because they didn't have access to electricity, and would use fireplaces at night, which were quite dangerous for their children. And so even on the very kind of micro level, adding a gender lens allowed us to meet the needs of communities and also platform their voices vis-a-vis vis-a-vis policymakers. And we had several meetings with Al-Nishmayat and decision makers, whether in the Knesset, so the Israeli parliament, or local decision makers, to allow them to really platform what they see as the long-term policy needs of their communities. I'd like to take a bit of a step back from our immediate emergency relief support and talk about our wider work for a political negotiated resolution to the conflict. And this is work that we've been carrying out at our Center for Women, Peace and Security since 2005, when Itaak-Maaki led a coalition of civil society organizations that advocated for the legislation that would implement UN Security Council Resolution 1325 in Israel. And I'm sure that most of the people on this call will be familiar with this resolution, but for those of you who aren't, UN Security Council Resolution 1325 calls for the integration of women's voices and the mainstreaming of gender lenses into decisions relating to peace and security. And we've been working tirelessly, my colleagues, for the past 2 decades to make sure that this is actually implemented in government policy. And also to make sure that there is a foundation within civil society and within society in general to allow for these policies to be implemented. So part of that work has been, legal work, making sure that there is representation on government committees, on emergency committees, and so on. But a big part of that has also been our flagship negotiation training program, which we've been running together with the Jerusalem Center for Women, which is another member of ALLMEP, in the West Bank, and also with Search for Common Ground. And this program has trained over 100 women over the past few years in essential skills in taking part in negotiation training. Because, when my colleagues asked government officials why there weren't enough women who were taking part in track 1 and track 2 negotiations, the answer was often, there aren't any women who are qualified. And so they brought together women from a diverse range of backgrounds, both in terms of their geographic location, their socioeconomic background, but also in terms of their expertise. So we have leading academics, leading journalists, government officials in this program, both, again, Palestinian and Jewish citizens of Israel, and Jerusalem Center for Women is also training Palestinian women in the West Bank. And the idea is really to create a diverse range of voices that will be able to integrate themselves into peace processes when the time comes. And many of our graduates have already, in the current crisis, been taking part in Track 2 negotiations. They've set up their own initiatives to carry out lectures to diverse societies about the need to integrate gendered voices into considerations relating to peace and security. And they've hosted, several briefings to international delegations in Israel-Palestine as well, focusing on their own communities' needs and showing them from a gendered perspective. And so it's been really good to see how creating the foundations and the groundwork for all of these programs has allowed us to really take action when the situation, when the crisis hit and when the war has been going on. I think it's been really inspirational to see the network of our alumni continuing to work together. And this program is running alongside our joint steering committee, which brings together Palestinian and Israeli women leaders from the West Bank and from Israel to discuss wider strategic issues relating to women, peace, and security and learn from best practices across the world. And this steering committee had a meeting already on October 10th, so just at the beginning of the war. And we've really been seeing the wider network of our over 100 alumni continuing to collaborate as well, Palestinians and Israelis. And I think it's been really meaningful to see the innovative solutions that they've been driving and their readiness to continue engaging with international stakeholders, with domestic stakeholders, to really make a difference for their individual communities while working together in solidarity with one another and acknowledging the power imbalances that do exist between the Palestinian and Jewish communities in Israel. The last project that I would like to highlight that we have been working on since last year really is our testimony collection project. This project has been based off of a similar project that took place in Colombia, where the collection of testimonies from women from a diverse range of backgrounds allowed for the integration of more gendered lenses in the final peace process, and also for the advocacy for the integration of more women's voices and more women in the negotiations themselves. And so based on this case study, we started this testimony collection process, where we've been collecting testimonies from constituencies of Palestinian and Israeli women to really hear about what their needs are and what their proposed solutions are to the challenges that they're facing. And the first research project that my colleagues carried out happened last year and focused on voices of women from Masafiriata, which, for those of you who are not familiar with the issue of Masafiriata, these are communities that are at risk of eviction oh, sorry, now it is asking me for a host to allow people into the waiting room.
Oh, just leave it, don't worry.
Okay, yes. And so the idea of this testimony collection project was really to collect to hear the stories of the women who are impacted by these evictions and see what they can really teach us about the necessary policy changes that need to happen. And actually, we carried out a series of briefings about this to UN officials, to local diplomats. We carried out a roundtable discussion about this in the Knesset. And it was really interesting to hear from people who we talked to that even though this issue has really been on the news consistently, that they had seen needs that they hadn't been aware of before, thanks to really the focus on women's voices. And we were able to, together with Physicians for Human Rights, send out a delegation and a convoy of a mobile health clinic to Masafiriata to support women with gendered medical care, which was an issue that they had raised as something that they needed, especially because of stigma around women leaving the house alone as well, and so on. That then we were able to partner with other civil society organizations to provide. And so I really think that we are consistently seeing throughout this work how highlighting the experiences of women and really listening to women leaders, not as victims of this conflict, but as people who can really have a say and really understand the needs of their communities, how that can make tangible difference. And so that was the first case study that we tried last year. And throughout this war, we've been collecting thousands of testimonies from online sources and also focusing on interviewing women from the unrecognized villages with a focus on women without legal status. and also women who have been evacuated from the areas surrounding the Gaza Strip. And now we're also collecting testimonies from women in East Jerusalem. And so our aim is really to create a wider database of women's voices to allow us to reflect the diverse needs of women on the ground, to show that, to make sure that these diverse voices are also included in a future peace agreement. I wanted to end on highlighting this issue because I think this is a project that we've really focused, that was really inspired by the case in Colombia. And I think that networks like this and discussing our best practices and the methodologies that we learn in peace building with cases from other parts of the world, it can really help us and create a wider network to make a difference. If you would like to stay in touch with us, I am leaving our contact information here, and maybe we can also put a link in the chat. We would love to be in touch and continue seeing how we can work on this together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Stav. And yeah, I put a link in the chat so everyone can see. Stav, thank you so much for being with us and for sharing your work.
Thank you.
So something that we haven't touched upon yet, but that's obviously a very important part of all of this is the health sector. And so the next speaker we're going to hear from is Mohammad Asideh, who is from Project Rosana, which is an organization focusing on health diplomacy. And in Israel and Palestine, they work to address healthcare gaps and to build relationships between healthcare actors.
Thank you, Rachel. Hello, everyone. This is Mohammad Asideh. I'm speaking to you from Ramallah. First, thanks to ALLMEP for organizing this event and for the great opportunity and the platform to speak to you and tell you a little bit about Project Rosana and what we've been trying to do in Palestine and Israel. My name is Mohammad. I'm the Executive Director of Rosana Palestine. I come from a small town in the north of the West Bank called Tel. I studied political science. It's been always my passion. Some consider it a curse. I think it's been a bliss. And I got to study public policy later as well. And I think I was lucky enough to be exposed to different cultures and systems, whether political or in terms of policy. And I would really like to tell you about the work we're trying to do in Rosana. But Rosana is an international organization that aims to improve access to health quality for communities in conflict. The main area we're focused on is Palestine and the occupied Palestinian territories. And how do we do that? We always talk about health diplomacy, and that's the area we're focused on. There are a few organizations or several organizations that do amazing job in other policy areas, such as environment, security, mental health, education, and so on. But today, I just want to focus on health because I think we all realize the importance of health, where you have around 48% of the doctors in Israeli hospitals are Palestinians or Arab Israelis. Now, 25% of them are of the nurses are Palestinians or Arab Israelis. The pharmacists are run by 70% of the people who run pharmacies in Israel are Arab Israelis or Palestinians, and that shows the significance of the role of the Palestinians in the health sector in Palestine and in Israel. And we do this work through joint initiatives. So, for example, our nursing help brings around 450 Palestinian and Israeli nurses to be trained together. And then when they go back to their health institutions, they try to improve the quality of service provided to the people. We run Women for Women program. That's mainly in Area C, where a team of health professionals from different specialties, they visit the remote communities and to provide health or access to women and children in those communities who are mainly deprived the right to health. for several reasons. Sometimes it's inefficiency by the Palestinian health institutions, but also because Palestinians are not allowed to build in Area C, unfortunately. I would encourage you all to visit Project Rosana social media and website to learn more about the programs we do and the ways you could support. The other thing I want to highlight is really an important thing that ALLMEP and a few other organizations are trying to help us do, which is how do we take this work on the ground in the health sector to make it influential on the policy and political level. We in the civil society organizations, whether in Palestine, Israel, or around the world, we cannot ignore the fact that we have leadership crisis in both societies, recently in other places as well, in the US, in Europe, in Canada, all around the world. And that means civil society needs to take more responsibility on this. I don't think in this field we can just keep focusing on bringing people together to build one narrative. I don't think that really would solve the problem. What we need is a concrete plan for policy improvements in both societies. And through those improvements, we bring people together so they work on achieving something at the end of the day. I don't think really having the same narrative would lead to solving the conflict. It would contribute to it. But, you know, I recently came to realize that I share, you know, the Jewish community in Israel, or the Israelis and myself, we have 100% or 99% different narrative, right? We rarely agree on anything when it comes to the narrative, but we agree on the vision moving forward. And here in Palestine, you know, I agree on the narrative with almost 99% of the Palestinians, but sometimes we don't share the same vision. As you all know, sometimes it's the one state, two states, what needs to be done, whether we should keep the PA or not. And I think the role of the Palestinian institutions is extremely important. We all know a state is three things. It's the land, the people, and the institution. We have amazing health institutions in Palestine that we in Rosana believe we should invest in. They will be the foundation for the two-state solution, despite the skepticism around the solution itself, but they would be the foundation for any solution in the future. And that's what we are trying to invest in. Many people undermine the role of those institutions in Palestine and how efficient they are. But I can tell you in Palestine, in the health institutions, the public servants or the doctors and nurses have been receiving 50% of their salaries or 60% for the past 4 years. They still wake up every morning, 5, 6 a.m. They show up at work and they provide the services to their people, despite the very difficult circumstances that they are working in. And they know sometimes they can't even afford the transportation costs to the health institutions. And the drivers, sometimes they say, well, you don't have to pay. I'll do my part, you do your part. That's what made me go back to Palestine just 3 months ago. I was based in Australia with my family. I can't tell you, it was a big decision, but it's those people who really made me go back. It's those people who made Rosana embark on this journey and try to do everything we can. So hopefully in 10, 15 years, 20 years from now, we can look back and we think, you know what, we were part of something great. So I encourage you to visit Rosana website, social media. If you are interested to know more, please reach out. Thank you very much for joining this event, and thanks a lot for all the team and for the opportunity. Thanks so much.
Great, thanks so much. So now actually we have Maisam here with us, who is the CEO of Tsofen-Tashbik, which is an Arab Jewish organization which aims to integrate Arab engineers into Israel's tech industry. And so we're really lucky to have Maisam here with us today. I don't know, Maisam, if you can hear us, if you're here.
I'm here. I'm hearing you. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Maisam. Thank you so much. So yeah, take it away. We'd love to hear about the work that you're doing and how you're navigating the current situation and anything else you'd like to share.
I'm, as you said, the CEO of Tsofen-Tashbik, and we are an organization that started to work to integrate Arab engineers into the high-tech industry and, promoting the values of shared society in Israel 16 years ago. And Tsofen responsible of placements of hundreds and hundreds of Arab engineers in the high-tech industry in Israel. Unfortunately, since the 7th of October, we are having challenges that we never met with before. The challenges are so wide, and the challenges are very, dangerous for the future of shared society and the future of the relationship between Arabs and Jews, Palestinian Israeli citizens, and Jewish population in Israel. So I just want to say that I think that the work that we are doing right now is, for me, the light of hope that we are giving for even our beneficiaries, the Arab young engineers, and also for the Jewish engineers, because since the 7th of October, we are still doing the work that we should do to integrate more and more Arab engineers in the industry. And we are also doing a lot of efforts since the 7th of October to let the majority in the high-tech companies to understand that it's not only about placement, not only about work, and the importance of inclusion, the importance of creating a shared society in the workplaces, because after the 7th of October, we just noticed some kind of collapse in the relationship between the employees, the Arab and the Jewish employees in the high-tech industry. And I think it was going all over because Tsofen-Tashbik, mainly works with engineers. So we noticed that a lot of Arab engineers actually starting calling us and asking us for advice how to manage the situation and how can they actually try to rebuild the relationships with their colleagues. On last December, we in Tsofen-Tashbik actually held a survey. More than 300 Arab engineers participated in our survey, and we had evidence, that yes, there was the relationship between Arab and Jewish in the high-tech industry were not so good. 30% of the Arab engineers, told us that they are afraid to speak Arabic in the workplaces. 80% of the Arab engineers mentioned that they are afraid to write something or anything, or even to have like or dislike in Facebook and social media. And the most interesting thing that the things that they are still appreciated, in their work, but socially, there are a lot of problems between the colleagues, and unfortunately, most of the companies, which many of them are international companies and global companies, high-tech companies, didn't do much to for the dialogue between the Arab and the Jewish engineers to create a real dialogue between the two groups inside the companies. And so we decided in Tsofen that, our mission right now is to work with the management of these companies, to work in order to convince them to create that dialogue between the two groups. And we are in Tsofen right now really working to emphasize the issues of dialogue and inclusion between the two groups. Fortunately, 2 weeks ago, we had a very big event in our mentoring plan. We have a mentoring plan, which we have mentors from the high-tech that help the young engineers to build themselves into the industry. and we have a very big event with more than 200 participants, Jewish and Arab, that came to Nazareth in order to celebrate, the cooperation between the two groups. And we are still doing all of our efforts also in the media, in the Israeli media, to show that things are not so bad as we thought, and there's still a lot of cooperation and a lot of efforts to create shared society in Israel. We are having a big challenge, working with the West Bank and working with engineers from the West Bank. We are Tsofen, we are also want to promote the shared work and shared society, not only between Arab, Palestinian Israeli citizens and Jewish Israeli citizens, but also we want to expand to the West Bank. We want to work with engineers from the West Bank, and this is a challenge right now. I think this is a challenge for most of the organizations, and we are having also a lot of engineers from the bank in Israel. There is no permission right now to let them enter Israel and participate in the events that we are holding inside Israel. So it's really a very challenging time. It's really a very hard time, and we know that in times of war, people become more and more extreme. But in the second hand, I think that activities such a lot of organizations like us and other organizations are doing are promoting, the basis of creating a real society in the future. And I really invite you to learn more about Tsofen-Tashbik. I will share with you our internet site, and you can visit the internet site and learn more about us. And we are really willing to answer any question, and we are available for you all the time. Thank you very much.
Maisam, thank you so much for being here and telling us about the work that you're doing. I'm going to post now in the chat the link so everyone has it, and echoing what Maisam said, just definitely take a look at what they're doing and reach out, because it's really a very niche part of what's happening. And I think it's interesting, the international community, we're sort of unaware of all of the pieces that make up Israeli society and Palestinian society, and this is one way of really doing a deep dive into the tech sector. And thank you so much, Maisam, for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thanks. So now actually I just want to take us back to education, and want to play a clip from our members, the Hand in Hand schools. And based on the core belief that education is key in changing the growing social alienation and lack of trust between Jewish and Arab citizens of Israel, Hand in Hand schools are one of the only bilingual Arabic Hebrew schools in Israel. They started with only 50 children in 1998, and now they have 6 campuses and thousands of Jewish and Arab students who are learning together in both of their own languages. And so this is a clip from their Jerusalem school anthem, and it's sung by their students. Yeah, that song, every time I listen to it, it gets stuck in my head for days. So I hope you guys, I hope it will be stuck in your head for days as well, because it's a good one. So our next speaker is called George Marrash, and he is an expert on youth activation, participation, and community development with a focus on peace building in Syria. In 2015, George founded Linked, which is a local organization in the Damascus suburbs working towards the vision of a world linked by humanity. And in 2016, he co-founded the Peacemakers, which is a Syrian national organization working to build Syrian youth capacities to activate their roles as active citizens. So we have a clip from George that we're going to play now, and give a bit of a wider context of peace building in Syria.
Hello everyone, my name is George Marrash. I am a Syrian peace builder living currently in London, the UK. The moment I decided to be engaged in peace building, it was in 2014, when I was already a volunteer with the Syrian Arab Red Crescent, trying to support people and internally displaced persons with finding a shelter and the basic needs for their lives, food, water, etc. That day, a missile hit the place where we were working before people arrived, thankfully. And that moment when you can't see anything except for dust, and you can't hear anything except for a big buzzing in your ears, you start seeing people running around, shouting, trying to make sure that everyone is fine and everyone is safe. That moment was a horrific moment when I felt that what I'm doing is good, but it's not enough. There no human on earth should experience this. I was thinking about other people who were under attack at the moment and how they are surviving, what they are feeling, because after what happened in that place, I managed to go back home, but those people sometimes were losing their homes. So I felt that we need to do something more. We need to be engaging in peace building. We need to forbid war from happening. We need to end the conflict instead of just supporting people who are suffering because of it. That's when I started looking for places, and I started working in peace building. I started working in education, basically educating teenagers and youth on the values that we have. What is nonviolence? What's the approach to not being engaged in a violent action, but to understand the needs of the people in front of us and the people who are against us, basically. The program was doing amazing as well, but then I started realizing that peace building is not only one thing that we do. It's not one activity. Peace building is in every field that we work in. I am doing pharmacy. I was studying pharmacy then, and I started thinking, if we bring people together to talk about health, people would realize that regardless to everything that divides us, regardless to our religion, regardless to our background, regardless to our ethnicity, to our political orientation, regardless to all of those, we have something bigger in common. We have our health, we have our bodies, we have our humanity in common. So why do we kill each other? Why do we argue with each other? Why don't we just speak and understand each other? So peace building, you can literally do it in every field that you are working in every area that you are navigating in your life. There are a lot of organizations now doing peace and sports, organizations doing peace and arts, organizations that are doing peace and health. There are a lot of different areas. So whatever you are doing now in your life, you can become a peace builder. A peace builder is your identity, is something that you are, regardless to the field that you are in. You don't need to quit your job and join an organization. You can do peace building from whatever field, from any space that you are in at the moment. We need all of us. We need more people every day. So all of us should be peace builders. Please do whatever you can in any field that you are to build more peace in this world, because it's a collective responsibility, and we need all of us to make this world a peaceful place.
I love that message from George, because I think he really emphasized what we've been trying to show for the past 2 hours, which is really that there are, in all sectors of society, peace builders that are doing their bit in each kind of sector. So in health and education and tech and you name it. And that's not just in Israel-Palestine, it's also throughout the Middle East, and as we've seen for the past 24, however many hours, it's also throughout the world. So to end, I actually just want to play a final song. It's a song inspired by our members, Women Wage Peace and Women from the Sun. It's called The Mother's Call. And it's a song that was sung during the joint memorial, which is a memorial organized by more of our members are combatants for peace and the Parent Circle Families Forum. And it takes place every year to mourn both Palestinian and Israeli lives that have been lost to this horrific conflict. So this next song is sung by two women.
באום לשיר את שירה, תפילת האימהות, יחד עם ליאן חווילה.
to the south, from the west to the east. Hear the prayer of the mothers. Bring us peace, bring us from the north to the south, from the west to the east. Hear the prayer of the mother. Bring us peace. From the north to the south, west to east. Hear the prayer of the mother. Bring us peace. From the north to the south, from the west to the east. Bring us peace, bring us peace. From the north to the south, from the west to the east. Hear the prayer of the mothers. Bring us peace, bring us peace. Hear the prayer of the mothers. Bring us peace, bring us peace. Bring us peace, bring us peace. Bring us peace.
Thanks, everyone. So that's it for this part of the Peace Wave. Thanks to the whole team, and I hope that everyone here heard the mother's call, and everyone internationally will do as well.